So is it something you explicitly talk about, the addendum?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. It's something that I found to be of paramount importance to save any future friction with clients. It helps to avoid uncomfortable conversations later. It helps to avoid a lot of hurt feelings on both sides, right? Where we may both feel justified in it because we didn't have a conversation.
Some weather we're having.
Pardon?
Some weather we're having. 67 degrees. It's sunny. How's that feel after 8 months of, I mean, it feels like years. It might only be 2 months, but it feels like a really long time of just gray skies and defeatist attitudes.
It's like a breath of fresh air, just trying to get back out of the cave. Like yesterday, it was foggy for the first 20 minutes of my drive, and then I see the sun come out, and I'm like, oh, I'm alive again.
Yeah, it's crazy what a little bit of sunshine can do for your soul and for your psyche.
I can agree to that.
Yeah, that's good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Mission Control Podcast. As always, proudly brought to you by Ascend Digital Agency, the brand, and the team over at Roofer. If you need instant roof quotes, clean, pristine proposals, which will give your customers no choice but to buy from you, quite honestly, hit up the team at Roofer. My guy, Christian's going to drop the link in the description below. You're going to click it. They're going to know I sent you, and we're going to ride off into the sunset. Very special guest today. Some of you may know Matt Kulhaneck. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you were in marketing. You did sales. Now you own a construction company?
Interimly. I've been running it for a few years since I left marketing.
What inspired you to make the pivot from working with contractors on their marketing strategies into, I want to work for a contractor, I want to become an owner of a contracting company?
There's a few things at play for that. I would say I grew up around construction. My father was a general contractor. Naturally, when I did marketing, I gravitated towards construction workers and things that I was familiar with. And, I started to see how successful these guys can be, seeing my father not very successfully provide for 3 children. I didn't really realize that it could be a lucrative business where I can become a good provider doing it until I did marketing and saw all the money I was making everyone.
Okay. Did you ask for a cut? I want to draw.
Every time, and they never gave it to me.
It's fucked up, guys. I'm interested because it's been, 4 years since you've been in marketing? Something like that?
Over 5.
Over 5. I'm interested to see what the struggles looked like for you and your clients back then versus what that looks like now. As we know, a lot of things change day over day, week over week, especially year over year. So I'd like to take an opportunity to kind of A/B test or observe rather, the struggles then, the struggles now, see what overlap there is, see what differences there are. When you were in marketing and providing marketing and advertising for roofing contractors, what were some of the biggest challenges that you guys were faced with as far as producing opportunities?
A lot of it was experimentation, going into new markets, not realizing the feel and how people were searching and being able to capture the correct audience, finding out which strategies worked in different markets, where one market was heavily, organic traffic. Another market may only get leads off of paid traffic. Some of the things changed throughout the years where you'd be able to have ads in the map section, and then Google Guarantee came along, and it just continued to progress. It was something that you had to continually keep up on with market trends and each specific market that you were working. Especially me, much like you, I did not really make it a habit to work with competitors. So I wasn't saturating a market with my marketing as well. I was, all over states, all over the country. I had clients all the way from Washington to Florida, back up to Maine. Just a learning curve, I would say. It's diligence and keeping on top of it, making sure that your fulfillment is as informed as you are, as well as monitoring it and keeping your customer relations.
Yeah. Communication's important, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I see, I work with a lot of businesses. I have friends that own businesses, and a lot of the times when you boil down the symptoms of issues that they're having within the business, it can all be kind of drawn back to breakdowns in communication, whether that's from company to client, whether that's from colleague to colleague, from ownership to management. At some facet, it usually has some semblance of a breakdown in communication.
Absolutely. You'd run into situations where you would be communicating with your client just as client maintenance, and some of your clients you'd become friends with very, very often. I have clients that are no longer my clients that are now good friends of mine, and you know a couple of them, and you're actually doing their marketing now. However, in the conversations that you'd have with these folks, you would not get the information about often the bug in their ear about, the nice new girl who says that they're going to do so much better for you and leave your wife and all that stuff until it's almost too late.
Yeah.
Where you're being diligent, you're keeping on top of things, you're always calling to check in, you're always making sure that you're doing everything to keep the customer happy, as well as making sure that you're helping them provide to feed their family and all the families of those that they employ, which is priority number one. I apologize for that. Yeah. And it wouldn't come up until they already had a sour taste in their mouth because of he said, she said type things.
Yeah, it's actually a well-timed point, because we just had a similar situation yesterday with a customer, and we have. I usually tell people we'll give you as much time as you'll give us, right? So as a worst-case scenario, we would love to meet at least once a month, but that doesn't mean that myself or my staff isn't available to call us if you want to schedule biweekly meetings. In this particular instance, we have biweekly meetings. And the client was like, "Hey, I hate to call you and tell you this, but we're gonna go in a different direction." Okay, let's talk about it. And they had their ad account audited by a couple people, and we're running experiments and testing things, right? That's how you optimize ad campaigns. You do what you're doing, you take the feedback that Google's giving you, try to parse through what is more malevolent and for their self-interest that's going to make Google more money, and what's going to actually serve your client better as far as getting them more opportunities, and then what the strategist is seeing. And then we're deducing things based off that and making our best informed opinion. And then based on that, we're going to create tests. So we had a test run, and I think, we had spent like $8,000 on a budget that was, spending like $30,000 a month. And it got 6 leads. And, he had seen, or somebody had pointed out to him, I could imagine the conversation being something like, "Is this how you want to spend your money?" And I assured him, this is there's successful tests, there's unsuccessful tests, and that's a spectrum, right? It's not binary. This worked, this didn't work. It's what worked within here? What can we learn from this? And you can't make changes like this on an aggregate level, especially in Google Ads. So if I run a sample, or if I run a test and the sample size is 5 days, and let's say we expect to be at a cost per lead of $200, and the cost per lead is $37, and it's just killing it. And then we go implement all those changes across all the ad groups and campaigns. You're setting yourself up for failure, right? Those things, there's a spurious relationship as far as the efficacy of the changes that you're making based on how small that sample size is. You have to let those tests run. And then there's obviously a cutoff point where it's okay, for reasons A, B, C, and D, this one's a flop, or this one is performing really well. This is what we're going to take away from this. We decided to try to save the marriage. We're gonna keep working together, but it's the communication, right? And I told this client, regardless, I'm very close with this client. I'm like, "Look, we're good regardless, right? If you decide to go, I'd hate to see you go, but at the same time, I understand it, and we'll still be cool. We're still boys, whatever." And I just, we have biweekly meetings set up, and sometimes he shows up to them, sometimes he doesn't. And I get it. You got contractors are busy. I understand that. But some of the points that are being brought up that seem to be points of contention and frustration are, well, we noticed that these calls, we're getting X amount of calls that are under X amount of length. And these are typically going to be things that aren't going to be actual opportunities. This is why we want to have that constant interaction, right? Because we're looking at KPIs, and KPIs are what we have to go off of. We can't listen to every single call that's coming in.
Fair.
and I'm relying on my team to meet with you and your team to communicate the information so that if there is a situation like that, we can try to get to the bottom of it. Like if there's an issue where we're getting a lot of spam calls, like what ad group or ad campaign are those coming from? And how can we reverse engineer it to try to enact pivots to make sure that that doesn't happen again? And if we don't have that communication, we're just operating off of KPIs, which is second best to having feedback from the team, but it's still second best. And like Ricky Daddy's Bobby said, if you ain't first, you're last.
That's a challenge that I had to endure quite a lot because you get a tendency as a business owner and somebody who's running a business to get tunnel vision and look into a very small sample size. If I were to look at my sales in the middle of February, where we had a pretty rough winter, I'm out of business, right?
Yeah.
Where same thing with marketing, it's an average, right? Is this marketing a good investment overall? 25% of a budget being used effectively, not necessarily a big money maker, but it's a growing thing, right? It's something in order to help the campaign grow, in order to help the campaign succeed. You have to know what doesn't work just as much as what does work in order to avoid it. Same thing with my customers now in construction. I need to tell them all of the possibilities of different things, and I need them to communicate with me their concerns. If they don't tell me that they're concerned about their prize rose bush, right, I'm going to make my normal efforts to protect it as such. I knock off a flower, it's the end of the world. I didn't have the opportunity to present them like, we're going to be tearing off, tens of thousands of pounds of debris off of your roof. We're going to protect things with plywood. We're going to protect things with tarps. We're going to have a guy monitoring these different things. There's a chance that you may have some temporary recoverable damage. And just like with marketing, you can have different points that you're hitting, and everything's not going to be 100% year-round, trial after trial. But that's the job.
Right. To your point about, the recoverable damages and lack of communication, have you enacted things within your business to try to get ahead of those things? So let's say we go out, we visit a lead, we sign that customer. Do you have any processes in place for communication as far as like, hey, here's what you expect coming into your install. You're scheduled for this date. Here's a punch list of things to, inspect your attic, put down the tarps over things that mean something to you, communicate to us externally, things that are important to you that you want to make sure that, don't take any damage. Or do you have anything like that?
Absolutely. It was a hard learned experience. I actually implemented an entire addendum in my contract to go over all of these tidbits and pieces, drywall cracks, drywall damage, things like that aren't a direct result of us penetrating. So this is a perfect example. Doing a customer's house who has a roof in their house is in not the greatest condition.
Sure.
They have lath and plaster ceilings. These ceilings are already on the verge of falling. We're doing our job. We're installing a roof. We're dropping bundles on the roof like we need to do. Ceiling falls. Who's responsible? Moving forward, I now have an addendum. If it's not a result of a direct penetration of a hand, a tool, foot, or something that we directly cause, if the work itself causes it, we can try to help you, but it's not our responsibility that your house is out of maintenance.
Yeah, that's got to be really tough for a customer.
Absolutely. I get hired. The people that hire me love me. The people that don't hire me are probably scared of me for telling them the truth.
I mean, I just can't imagine. I know how careless I can be when I'm reviewing a contract after having a conversation. So I talk to you. Yeah, everything sounds good. Send over the agreement. It's 14 pages. There you go. It's 6 pages. Okay. So is it something you explicitly talk about the addendum?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. It's something that I found to be of paramount importance to save any future friction with clients. It helps to avoid uncomfortable conversations later. It helps to avoid a lot of hurt feelings on both sides, right? Where we may both feel justified in it because we didn't have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Yeah, relationships fail and flourish with setting and either meeting or exceeding expectations or not meeting them, right? And if you guys aren't communicating about what those expectations are, it's impossible to be on the same page. So the likelihood that there's a discrepancy between what you feel and believe and what your customer feels and believes is significant. And it's really, I don't want to say it's a powder keg, but it's not far off.
Fair.
Yeah. So we want to do everything that we can to consistently ensure the best experience possible for your company, your employees, also your prospective customers and future customers, right?
Absolutely.
What are some other things you do to help achieve that?
Well, I hired project managers to also kind of hold hands, so to speak, with customers throughout the process, similar like you'd have an account manager, somebody to consistently be a point of contact. Obviously, I'm out, doing several different things, and I'm often not on the job sites. So there needs to be a point of communication there. So that person's there to reiterate the things that I went over with them in the addendum, not in the addendum, other things to be on guard for. To be honest, mostly to point out the negative and to show the positive. To say, this could happen. Hey, we're running into this, just so you know. But also, we're going to take care of it. It's going to turn out wonderful.
Yeah, that's smart. So do you have a project manager on every job site?
Yes.
Do they stay there, or are they floating between multiple projects?
No.
No what?
Their siding foreman manages siding. He's not installing. He's the project manager.
But is he boots on the ground at 123 Anywhere Avenue, start to finish of the project?
Unless he has to run to get materials, yeah.
Okay. So how many project managers do you have?
Two.
Okay. And what's the breakdown as far as?
3. I take that back because I have a project manager that manages carpentry and framing, and then I have siding and roofing.
What's your breakdown look like as far as like jobs sold over the last year? Roofing, siding, framing.
I'd have to get back to you on those numbers, brother.
Most importantly, you got to know your numbers, guys.
Absolutely. I know a roundabout that I have been seeing a downtrend in roofing and an uptick in framing. I've gotten a pretty good influx of building projects, garages, additions, decks, fences, whatever, things that my framers would perform.
Yeah.
And my siders and roofers and carpenters would finish up. And a big downtick in roofing, mostly because of cost. Obviously, as you know, in the conversations that we've had on a personal level, you get to a point, at least me specifically, where you do sales. You do sales a long time. And you just want to be a person and be honest with people and tell them the truth about what's going on and do you want it or not? And, I do tend to give a good value offer, but I've noticed that in our market and conversations with, like past clients that are in other states, that the economy is really, for lack of better words, budget chopping.
Right.
Whereas myself running an established company who's 5-star rated on Google, Better Business Bureau accredited, not that that means much these days.
Big BBB guy over here.
To some people, it means something, and that's what counts to me. We've been in business long enough to stand the test of time where, the statistics, 80% of roofing companies go out of business within their first year, 80% of those within the next 5. We've stood the test of time in order to be able to hang in the market and show that we're going to be there to follow our warranties, to support you. If you ever need anything else, we're here again. That's how the business was established. We started out as a fencing company. And then we got a guy who knew how to do this, and people said, do you know how to do that? And now, yeah, we do. And then before you know it, we're a full-service GC building custom homes. So I lost my point there.
That's okay. It was good up until that point. Yeah, I'm proud of you. You're doing great.
Thanks, pal.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Chief. So what would be the ideal breakdown as far as roofing, siding, framing, in your mind, and why?
As far as revenue dollars or day-to-day performance?
Let's say revenue.
Revenue dollars, I would say 70 roofing would be ideal. I mean, I'd take 100% roofing because roofing is faster money. It doesn't keep you as cash poor. Production times are days, not weeks, not months.
Yeah. I think that's why a lot of people like roofing.
A lot of people who own roofing companies never touched a roof.
Maybe I should open up a roofing company.
Ascend Roofing. We'll get on top.
I don't hate it. What's something that's worked well for you as far as getting new customers over the last few years?
Relationships.
Also, let me back up for a second before we get there. I don't think it's mutually exclusive. Either being honest or, being sales-y or sales-oriented. I think you can do both. And if I'm here, the way that I heard it was kind of like is one or the other. But I think the point that you're trying to make is that you're just fucking tired of doing the show to get the dough.
I think that's fair.
Okay.
I'm not quite the exhibitionist anymore. In today's modern technology, we don't have to get on roofs anymore. Yeah. Right. If we want to view the type of decking, we just go inside the attic or look in the crawl space or look under the drip edge. People still want to see that, right? They still want to see somebody take that ladder off your truck and put it on the roof and take a look at it, even though none of the information that you're going to gain matters because the measurements remain the same and the amount of layers that you determine from the ground maintain the same. They still want that exhibitionism where I think you're right, where they are not mutually exclusive. I just can be a little too candid without sugarcoating things and just kind of like, you're in for it. We're going to do a great job, but this is all the stuff we could run into. Do you want it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, generally speaking, I think that's the right way to go about it. You don't want to be the slimy company that undertakes a project knowing there's, 7 likely scenarios that are going to unfold that are going to result in change orders and just hammer this homeowner.
I've been called the dream crusher.
I'd rather do it on the front end than to catch you off guard when your roof's torn off and you look at me like a scumbag.
Very much so. I had that conversation before knowing better and it does not feel good.
Yeah. Yeah, you might lose some sales on the front end, but I think that's part of what makes companies have a really strong brand and make people willing to refer companies and things like that is just going out of the way to do the right thing from the
first interaction,
from the inception of that relationship, through and through. Because it's really easy. It's much easier to do the wrong thing than the right thing. There's a million reasons why you do the wrong thing. And there's usually only a couple why you do the right one. So kudos to you for doing it the right way, Matthew.
Thanks, Bill.
Yet again, I'm proud of you. Okay. So you're telling me about, something that you've done that has been successful getting new customers before I rudely interrupted you. And for that, I apologize. Get back to it.
That's a tough question because I have been very fortunate to not do a whole lot to obtain new customers. I left Hearst Media to run this construction company the year that Google Guarantee started going national. And I became the first company in Western New York to get Google Guaranteed. And Google Guaranteed at the time was all the hot rage, which has slowly died for most of us.
Yeah.
But I was able to generate $2 million in new business. We also got blessed with a hailstorm that year.
That was fucking crazy.
That was crazy.
We're in Buffalo. We don't get hail.
No.
I remember I was sitting there. It was like 11 o'clock at night. I was playing Call of Duty with a couple of my friends. And I just hear, I'm like, the fuck is going on here? And I'm like, I've heard about this. This can't be hail. Sure as shit. Like I pull up like a hail map. I was like, oh shit.
Grand Island got golf balls.
Grand Island got smoked. Well, it didn't get smoked. I did a reaction video today of a hailstorm in Texas and the hail there was much more substantial. But for Buffalo, contextually speaking, we got. I've never seen storm chasers before. There were fucking storm chasers here.
Yeah, there was tons of storm chasers here, companies that came and left.
Yeah.
In a pretty quick fashion, and I've gotten a lot of the callbacks on, oh, these guys are no longer in town. They were just chasing the storm. Can you come fix it?
Weird.
Right. I remember running into, I had a client in Cullman, Alabama.
Okay.
The last place I thought that I would generate a reasonably sized roofing company client. Right. They had 5-inch hail that broke through the roof and broke through the washer at some of these homes. I think there was 3 lost lives because of that. So we're very fortunate that it was only roof damage and no loss of life or damage to.
Yeah, no, the client I work with cleaned up during that hailstorm. It was great because he had. Most people in a market like this don't understand the insurance process, and
I learned a lot of that from my clients working at Hearst.
Yeah, so if you've got that in your tool belt, so to speak, you're in a much better position. It's like you're starting on third base.
Yeah, right? For sure.
Yeah, so yeah, that was a fun time. So Go Guaranteed absolutely crushed it for you. Seemingly has waned off in its effectiveness.
Yes.
Probably just a consequence of guys like me screaming about it, making content, and then people going and signing up, and now there's a bunch of people competing for that space as opposed to just you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please forgive me.
Thanks, man.
We're out here just trying to do the right thing for y'all.
I've been eating ramen noodle for the past year.
That's okay. I got a sandwich in the fridge if you want it. It's on keto bread, though. We're trying to cut Hot Boy Summer.
I'm all about the keto.
All right, perfect. Well, it's going to work out really well. Okay, so Go Guaranteed, but it sounds like that became less effective sooner than later. So what have you done to complement or sustain since then?
I've dabbled in small level marketing, what we could justifiably afford based upon our yearly budget and yearly revenue. The gentleman whose company I was running ended up passing away about 2 years ago, 18 months or so ago. And very, very, very old school. Yeah. Also, to your point, you need to know the numbers. Did not know the numbers. God rest his soul. He was one of my best friends. He was a great guy. Business was not his forte. He was just always trying to get more and more work, and he didn't say no. He taught me that saying no is sometimes the best thing you can say to a customer.
Yeah. I agree.
Not everybody's your customer, right? Just because they have money and they want you to do the work doesn't mean that you're a good fit.
Yeah.
And it brought us to a point where when he passed, we realized what was actually happening, because I had my section of the company that I was running. That section of the company was hemorrhaging. So we haven't been able to really dive into quote unquote ascend level marketing.
I gotta be honest. So very sorry to hear of the passing of your friend.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna play devil's advocate here on the marketing stuff, because you mentioned some things like affordability and what your budget permits. I've heard your pitch before, Matt. I've heard what you were telling, people as far as like the need when they want to grow in order to invest in these things. And it might not seem like it makes sense right now. However, what if we got you this? What if we did this? What if this were to happen? How much more money would you make?
Absolutely. And that's a fair point.
That's a fair point.
It is a fair point if you were talking to the sole financial decision maker.
So you're not yet the sole financial decision maker.
No, I've been running the day-to-day. I get a good cut of everything that comes through the door. However, I have not been able to obtain 100% decision making.
But your sales tactics are strong. So why not just pitch him the way you pitch people in the past?
If you could pitch him to do this, I'll give you $10,000.
You heard it here first.
Without any money
Christian,
out of my
you got
pocket.
that? $10K. What would I do with $10K right now?
Nothing.
What do you mean? $10,000.
Put it in your bank account.
I'd probably put it in my bank account. I might buy like Microsoft, buy some stock.
Microsoft's doing okay right now.
Doing okay. I hit on NVIDIA last year.
I hit on NVIDIA too.
And Eli Lilly. By the way, this is by no means any representation of investment advice, and I'm a complete idiot and don't know what I'm doing, but I did get lucky a few times last year.
We also lost pretty big listening to a landscaper and a roofer for investment purposes.
Yeah, Shiba Inu and Dogecoin. Back in 2020.
You remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah. I can't do like crypto like that where it's like day trading crypto. I mean, it would literally bring me to my knees and I would die by the time I'm 40. And for context, I'm 36. I think 40 might be an exaggeration, maybe like 38. Because I was checking that fucking thing like by the second, just waiting. Like, so it's so stressful. I've got some crypto. Yeah, I've got some crypto and I've bought it and you know, here and there I'd buy a chunk of like $500, and I just let it sit there. I sold it all like a month and a half ago when Bitcoin got to like 72,000. I sold it.
It was all bit.
No, I had, I don't know, maybe like a half a Bitcoin and some Ethereum and some, I think Polymath, like, you know, just a little bit of Dogecoin, nothing serious, but I did okay. I was happy because my net down was like 15,000 for the lifetime of the account. When I sold everything, I think I was net up lifetime of the account like $2,000. It's a big swing.
That's a big swing.
You go from like, you know, I feel really bad about all these investments to it's not so bad.
Let's try it again. Lose another 20.
No. Just pull it out, put it in the blue chips, things that I feel like are going to be able to withstand that test of time. And if it averages at 2% a year, 5%, 10%, I treat my stock investments kind of like my 401k, where it's try to invest in safe things. And if the market dies tomorrow, do some cost averaging, buy more of it over time because it's going to rebound by the time I want or need the money.
Fair.
Yeah.
I've also found, because I was very unsuccessfully investing. Like, yeah, I made some money on NVIDIA. I made some money on Amazon. I made some money on AMD. But that's just now. Taking out the tens of thousands of dollars lost in the past when the Bitcoin thing and Bitcoin related stocks came out, and you know, Coinbase started taking hold, and all the money I lost at that point doesn't quite make up for it. So I've been a little gun shy. Robinhood now is 5.25% year over year if you have over 80 in the account.
Well, maybe someday I'll get there, but I'm glad it's working for you. I got to be honest with you. Like, crypto is sexy. Like the opportunity for upside is so sexy. Well, you know what it's kind of like? If you're investing in crypto, you have to be fully okay with potentially losing everything. Otherwise, it's almost like you're looking for a wife, but you're going to the bar and hitting on women that are at the bar every day to find a wife.
It's worse than that.
It's worse than that. What do you guys think? Drop it in the comments. Yeah. So I'm out of crypto, and
it's very alluring. It is a very, very beautiful woman. I almost got it inappropriate.
She can ruin your life though. Yeah. Pick the right one, or you
stole my soul.
Yeah, exactly. So again, this is not financial advice. Don't listen to anything I say as far as things I've invested in, because likely the bottom's going to fall out and then you're going to blame me. And I want you to come back and watch this again at some point. And if you lose a bunch of money because of me, you won't do that. So
guys like you and I are good at investing in ourselves.
Yeah, I like to think so. Yeah, and that's because I have trust issues.
Fair.
At least that's what my therapist says. I'm kidding, but seriously. Yeah. All right. So we're finally getting some decent weather here in Buffalo. How has the start of your season been? Has it been, as it relates to last year, the year before, last 5 years, has it been the same? Has it been slower?
Historically slow. And it's not just unique to me. A couple of my friends and some actual friends in the industry locally are cutting back on crews, and they're not doing anything different with their marketing. They're actually diving into it more, and we're getting underbid. So what I've found from some research that I've done based on our market and how many licenses are pulled in the city and all this stuff, my father's a building inspector, you know that. And there has been a large influx of new companies that were incepted because of that hailstorm. The storm chasers came and left. But all of these companies where it may have been a guy working roofing, he decided that it'd be a great time to open his company. They opened the doors of a company, and now they're not there with project managers, and they're not there with office staff, and they're undercutting us established companies by a significant amount, to the point where we're lowering our prices and lowering our margins to be sustainable, but also to where it's not allowing growth, right? You need a certain amount of dollars to keep the doors open. You need a certain amount of dollars to be profitable, and you need a certain amount of dollars to grow your company. And we're kind of in that in between.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you get out of that tweener stage sooner than later.
One thing that I know about this industry is it's a roller coaster, just like the weather here.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to think about it.
Either you're on top of the world, or you feel like you're going to lose everything. There's no in between. I've accepted that. I have that discussion with friends, Chris, all the time.
Yeah. What's one thing you'd like to leave the audience with before we head out of here?
So obviously you and I work together at Hearst, and I established all of these relationships with my clients and had good friends and developed relationships with guys like Chris and Nick and a few others. And, I had a pretty good reputation at the time. I hope that people don't hate me for no longer doing their marketing, but you were the only person that I trusted to do that. And I made every effort to ensure that you were able to get all of my clients then and now. And I'd recommend everybody go with Mike. I mean, nobody works harder. Nobody gives a more cares than Mike. I mean, his communication's always been top notch. His diligence, his neuroses are specifically built to handle these types of things.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you very much. For the folks watching, and maybe they're, and should have been more specific, but for the folks watching, and maybe they're kind of in a similar situation as you, and you're moving closer to the finish line of fully becoming the sole decision maker within this company, owning the company, or for those that are on, let's say the precipice of making a decision to try to start a new company, what's a piece of advice that you would give them?
Just do it.
Just fucking do it.
Just fucking do it.
Christian, make sure that we're not infringing on IP here. I don't want to get sued by Nike or some shit. That'd be fucked up.
That'd be pretty fucked up.
That'd be a hell of a blow to take.
But just get after it. I mean, I have this thing where I've noticed in myself and a lot of others, analysis by paralysis. At the end of the day, if you just start chopping wood and carrying water, you're going to move forward.
I like that. Well, thank you to you for tuning in. Matt, thanks for stopping by today. I enjoyed our conversation, and we'll talk again soon. Peace.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.